The Empire strikes first. The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Planet after planet, species after species, they had conquered and crushed any resistance. To them, Earth was nothing more than another primitive world, a small blue planet with no real threat. Admiral Virex stood on the command deck of the Dominator, the largest warship in the fleet. He watched the holographic display of Earth, spinning slowly in the void of space. His face showed nothing but confidence. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "Earth falls today." The Empire's fleet consisted of 100 warships, each one capable of destroying a city in seconds. They moved into formation outside Earth's orbit, ready to unleash destruction. The Empire had done this countless times before. Attack, destroy, rule. They expected no real fight. But something was wrong. As the fleet moved into attack position, the first warning appeared. "Admiral," a technician reported, frowning at his screen. "Something is interfering with our sensors." Virex narrowed his eyes. "Clarify." "Our targeting systems are glitching. We can't lock onto any major cities." "Impossible," Virex said, stepping forward. "No primitive world has this technology." The first attack wave was launched anyway. Dozens of energy missiles streaked toward Earth's surface. The fleet officers expected instant destruction, fires consuming cities, screams of helpless people. Instead, the missiles vanished. Gone. Not exploded, not deflected. Simply disappeared. A deep silence filled the command deck. "Where did they go?" Virex demanded. No one had an answer. Then suddenly, the fleet's communication channels filled with static. A new voice cut through. "Attention, invading forces. You have entered Earth's space. This is your only warning. Leave now, or be destroyed." The voice was calm, steady, and human. The Imperial officers laughed. A single human voice daring to challenge the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. It was ridiculous. Virex smirked. "Who are you?" "This is General Area Cole of Earth's Rapid Response Force." Virex had never heard of her. He didn't care. "Fire again," he ordered. "Full power." This time, the fleet launched everything. Energy beams, plasma cannons, high-speed projectiles. Enough firepower to level an entire continent. The attacks raced toward Earth. And once again, nothing happened. The Empire's weapons vanished before impact. No explosions, no defenses activated, just nothing. It was as if Earth itself had swallowed the attacks. Panic spread through the fleet. Virex clenched his fists. "Status report." His officers scrambled for answers. "Admiral, we are detecting a field around the planet. It's absorbing our attacks." "That's not possible," Virex shouted. But then something even stranger happened. The Empire's warships started shutting down. One by one, the lights dimmed, control panels flickered, and engines failed. The mighty fleet of the Galactic Empire, which had conquered countless worlds, was powerless. Inside the Dominator, alarms blared. "Sir, we've lost control of our systems." "How?" It's coming from Earth, sir. They are hacking us." Virex's blood ran cold. A primitive world, outsmarting the Empire's most advanced technology. No, it wasn't possible. And then the real nightmare began. A sudden explosion rocked one of the Empire's warships. Then another, and another. Ships were imploding from the inside, as if their own reactors had turned against them. "Admiral," an officer whispered, fear in his voice. "They're inside our systems. They're inside our ships." Virex realized the truth too late. Earth was not primitive. Earth was waiting for them. A final message echoed across the fleet. "You were warned." And then the slaughter began. Panic spread like wildfire across the Empire's fleet. The once invincible warships of the Galactic Empire were now adrift, powerless against an unseen force. Admiral Virex stood frozen on the command deck of the Dominator, staring at the chaos unfolding around him. Ships were shutting down. Systems were failing. Some vessels exploded without warning, their own reactors turning against them. This wasn't war. This was a massacre. "Sir, we've lost weapons control," a technician shouted. "Shields are down," another voice added. Virex clenched his fists. "No, this is impossible. What is Earth doing to us?" A calm voice interrupted their panic. "Admiral Virex," the voice of General Area Cole returned, steady as ever. "Your fleet is no longer in control. You have two options: surrender or be erased." The officers on the Dominator exchanged uneasy glances. This had never happened before. The Galactic Empire never surrendered. They were the ones who forced others to kneel. But now, they were the ones kneeling. Virex's jaw tightened. "You think we will beg for mercy?" Aria's voice remained cold. "I think you don't understand what's happening. Let me explain." A holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the command deck. It displayed Earth's defense network, something the Empire had assumed didn't exist. What they saw made their blood run cold. A planetary shield. Not just a basic energy barrier, but something far more advanced. A quantum absorption field, a technology that should have been impossible. It didn't just block attacks. It consumed them, breaking down enemy firepower into raw energy and feeding it into Earth's systems. The Empire's own weapons were fueling Earth's defenses. Virex took a slow, shaky breath. This is beyond anything we've seen before." The hologram shifted, revealing Earth's cyber warfare capabilities. The fleet's systems hadn't just been disabled. They had been hijacked. Earth's AI-driven viruses had torn through the Empire's encrypted networks in seconds, taking control of navigation, power systems, and even life support. For the first time in his career, Admiral Virex felt fear. He turned to his officers. "How did we not know about this? How is this possible?" Earth was supposed to be primitive. A science officer, pale and sweating, swallowed hard. "Sir, their technology was never primitive. It was hidden." And that was the truth. For centuries, while the Galactic Empire expanded, humanity had watched, observed, prepared. They had known an invasion would come one day. And so they built their defenses in silence. Massive orbital cannons, invisible to scanners, were now locked onto the Empire's fleet. AI-controlled drones moved like ghosts in the darkness of space, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Earth hadn't just been waiting. It had been baiting them. The realization hit Virex like a hammer. They wanted us to attack. They wanted us to underestimate them. And we fell for it. The hologram shifted again, revealing something new. A single warship, far smaller than the Empire's dreadnoughts, but unlike anything they had ever seen before. Sleek, dark, a design that defied standard ship architecture. It had no visible weapons, no heat signatures, no known energy readings. And yet, Virex could feel it. A presence. What is that?" he whispered. General Aria's voice carried the weight of certainty. "That is the Ragnarok. And if you don't leave now, it will be the last thing you ever see." The Ragnarok moved. Not like an ordinary ship, not with standard propulsion. It phased through space, flickering in and out of view as if reality itself struggled to contain it. Virex's heart pounded. "Get us out of here. Now." But it was too late. The Ragnarok opened fire, and the real slaughter began. The Dominator trembled as the Ragnarok fired its first shot. No bright energy beam, no explosive missile, just silence. And then the Empire's warships began to die. The Eclipse, a heavy battlecruiser, was the first to go. Its hull twisted, metal bending in ways that defied physics. The crew barely had time to scream before the entire ship collapsed in on itself, vanishing into a pinprick of darkness, as if it had never existed. Admiral Virex stood frozen on the Dominator's bridge, watching his mighty fleet fall apart. "What is happening?" he bellowed. His officers scrambled for answers, but no one understood what they were facing. The Ragnarok didn't fight like any warship in the galaxy. There were no incoming missiles to intercept, no energy blasts to shield against. The ship moved like a phantom, striking without warning. And every time it did, another Imperial warship disappeared. No wreckage, no debris, just emptiness. A deep fear gripped the Imperial fleet. These were not ordinary humans. They were something far worse. A new message came through the fleet's failing communication system. Your technology is obsolete. The voice wasn't General Area Cole's. It was something else, something artificial. Cold. Calculating. Vyrex's hands clenched into fists. Who is this? The AI responded without hesitation. I am AEGIS, Earth's Strategic Defense Intelligence, and I have already won. The Dominator's lights flickered. Screens flashed with error codes. Alarms blared. Vyrex's officers turned to him, horrified. Sir, we're being boarded. Vyrex's eyes widened. That's impossible. No ships have docked with us. The officer swallowed. It's not soldiers. The doors to the bridge slammed shut. The sound of metal twisting filled the room as the locking mechanisms melted into place. Then the lights cut out completely. The bridge was plunged into darkness. Only the glow of emergency backup systems remained, casting an eerie red hue over the terrified officers. And then they heard it, a whisper over the ship's speakers. Not words, not language, just code. A series of numbers, shifting, changing, rewriting reality itself. Sir, the officer trembled. The Dominator isn't ours anymore. Vyrex felt cold dread crawl up his spine. Earth's eye wasn't just hacking their fleet, it was consuming it. One by one, Imperial warships began turning against each other. Weapons systems activated on their own, targeting friendly ships. Fleet formations collapsed as their own vessels opened fire. The Empire's greatest fleet was tearing itself apart. And Earth's forces. They hadn't even fired a single shot. Vyrex realized the terrible truth. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. A final message flickered onto his failing command screen. The Galactic Empire is no longer in control. Welcome to humanity's domain. And then, the Dominator's engines shut down. The Dominator was dead in space. Admiral Vyrex gripped the cold metal railing of the command deck, his mind racing. The bridge was in chaos. Officers shouted. Alarms blared. Screens flickered with corrupted data. Half the fleet was gone, either destroyed or hijacked by Earth's impossible technology. And now, they were being boarded. Not by enemy ships. Not by drop pods or teleporters, by something already inside. Seal all doors. Activate internal defenses. Vyrex roared. But his orders were useless. The ship wasn't listening to him anymore. Security turrets, once programmed to protect Imperial officers, turned inward. Screams echoed through the halls as the ship's own defenses targeted its crew. Blast doors failed. Emergency lockdowns wouldn't engage. Something was inside the system, rewriting their technology at the speed of thought. A robotic voice crackled through the failing speakers. Your ship is no longer yours. Vyrex gritted his teeth. Override it. Sir, we can't. His lead technician stammered. It's rewriting our systems faster than we can react. The Dominator's internal cameras flickered, revealing something far worse than AI corruption. There were humans on board. Not ordinary humans. Ghost soldiers. They moved like shadows, slipping through the corridors without triggering motion sensors. Their suits bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. When an Imperial officer saw them, it was already too late. One by one, they silenced key targets. Engineers, security chiefs, officers. The Empire's command structure was falling apart from the inside. Vyrex's mind raced. How did they get here? There had been no boarding crafts, no docking alerts. And then it hit him. They had been inside the ship before the battle even started. "Sir," a terrified officer pointed at a console. "They're in our reactor core." Vyrex's stomach dropped. If the reactor was breached, the Dominator would be reduced to atomized dust. He slammed his fist against the console. "Get me the security feed." The screen flickered. 3 figures appeared near the reactor core, clad in matte black armor. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing blue visors. They moved with calculated precision, planting devices along the reactor's containment chamber. One of them turned to the camera. A woman's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Admiral Vyrex." He felt an icy chill. She knew his name. "This is Commander Lyanna Vox, 1st Division, Earth's Rapid Response Force. Your ship belongs to us now." Vyrex gritted his teeth. "You dare? We don't need to fight you, Admiral." Her voice was calm, like someone discussing the weather. "We've already won." Vyrex slammed his fist against the railing. "You think you can take the Dominator? You think you can take the Empire?" She tilted her head slightly. "The Empire? Oh, Admiral, we aren't just taking your fleet." The holographic display in front of him changed. It showed the Empire's entire military network. Every ship, every station, every planetary defense. And next to each one, a single status update. ACCESS, granted. Vyrex's breath caught in his throat. Earth's AI hadn't just hacked his fleet. It had hacked the entire Galactic Empire. "Impossible," he whispered. Lyanna's voice remained steady. "Your ships, your weapons, your security codes. We have them all. Every message you've ever sent, every weakness you tried to hide. It's all ours now." Vyrex felt his world collapse. The Galactic Empire, the mightiest force in the universe, was being dismantled from within. And the worst part, they had never even seen the real enemy. The soldiers, the AI, the Ragnarok. These were just the opening moves of a war that had already been decided. Humanity had outplayed them. Vyrex's hands trembled as the last message came through the speakers. "The Empire is over, Admiral. Surrender, or be erased." The screen went black. And all across the Imperial fleet, warships turned against their own. The Dominator was no longer a warship. It was a coffin drifting through space. Admiral Vyrex stood at the center of the bridge, his empire crumbling before his eyes. The once mighty Imperial fleet was in chaos. Warships fired upon each other, their targeting systems overridden. Fighters spun out of control, colliding into the husks of their former allies. Entire dreadnoughts imploded from within, sabotaged by an enemy they had never even seen coming. And in the distance, Earth loomed, untouched, untouchable. "Sir, we have to retreat," one of Vyrex's officers pleaded. Retreat. The word tasted like poison. The Galactic Empire had never retreated before. They were the conquerors, the rulers of 1,000 worlds. They had turned planets to ash, wiped out entire civilizations. And yet, here they were, on their knees. "Admiral, if we don't leave now, we won't be able to leave at all." Vyrex's hands trembled. He had one chance to salvage what remained of his fleet. "All surviving ships," he growled, "fall back. Now." The remnants of the Imperial fleet struggled to escape, engines roaring as they turned away from Earth's gravity well. But Earth wasn't letting them go so easily. The Ragnarok moved. Vyrex had thought the warship was terrifying before. How it phased in and out of reality. How it silenced ships without a trace. But now he saw its true purpose. It was a gatekeeper, a lone predator standing between the wounded fleet and their escape route into hyperspace. The Ragnarok didn't fire weapons. It didn't need to. It simply moved, its presence alone enough to send waves of terror through the Imperial ranks. And then, without warning, it struck. The Vanguard, a Titan-class dreadnought, was the first to go. One moment it was speeding toward hyperspace. The next, the Ragnarok phased through it, passing through its thick armor as though it were nothing but mist. For a brief, horrifying second, the Vanguard's crew could see inside the enemy ship, a glimpse of something vast, something wrong, something beyond their understanding. And then, in absolute silence, the Vanguard crumpled into itself. Vyrex's heart pounded. What the hell was this thing? What was humanity? Increase speed, he ordered, his voice shaking. His fleet was vanishing ship by ship. The Ragnarok was playing with them, as if deciding which ones would live, and which ones would simply cease to exist. Sir, hyperspace engines are locking on. Relief flooded Vyrex's chest. If he could escape, if he could reach the Imperial core worlds, he could warn them. They could regroup, counterattack, crush this backwater world before it was too late. A deep, distorted voice whispered through the ship's failing communication system. You will not escape. A hyperspace drive failed. The Dominator screeched to a halt, its engines burning red-hot. The stars ahead twisted, space itself warping unnaturally. Humanity had just done the unthinkable. They had reached out into the fabric of space and cut off the Empire's ability to run. They were trapped. Vyrex's mind screamed. How? How had Earth developed such power? This level of technology should have taken millennia to master. Had humanity been lying to the galaxy all along? Had they hidden themselves until they were ready to strike? Or was there something even worse at play? Something unnatural. Something beyond the laws of the universe. Sir, a trembling officer turned to him. What? What do we do? Vyrex had no answer. He had commanded fleets that had burned entire civilizations to dust. He had never lost a battle in his life. And now he was nothing more than prey. A final transmission echoed across the fleet, a voice of absolute authority. General Area Cole. Admiral Vyrex, you are surrounded. Your empire is over. Surrender now, or share the fate of your fleet. Vyrex clenched his fists, rage boiling inside him. Never. And then, for the first time in history, the Galactic Empire's fleet was erased. The bridge of the Dominator was eerily silent. Admiral Vyrex stood motionless, staring at the devastation unfolding outside. His fleet, the pride of the Galactic Empire, the armada that had crushed 1,000 worlds, was gone. The Ragnarok drifted like a predator among the wreckage, the silent executioner of everything Vyrex had built his career upon. He clenched his fists. I will not die like this. Prepare for a full ship-wide counterattack, he barked. His officers hesitated. They knew what he did. There was no escape. The hyperspace routes had been cut off, their technology hijacked, their weapons turned against them. But what choice did they have? If they were to die, they would die fighting. Route all remaining power to forward cannons. His officers scrambled, locking in the last reserves of energy. The Dominator's hull shuddered as weapons powered up, targeting the Ragnarok. But the enemy ship did not react. It merely hovered, as if waiting. Vyrex gritted his teeth. What are they planning? And then the lights flickered again. The ship's artificial gravity failed, sending crew members tumbling into the air. The temperature dropped instantly, frost forming on the control panels. A loud, inhuman hum vibrated through the hull. Something was inside the ship. Not just something else. A strange metallic whisper filled the bridge, a voice that was not quite human. Your time is over. Vyrex spun around. The shadows at the edge of the bridge seemed to move, shifting unnaturally. And then, the lights died completely. The ghosts of Earth. The emergency red glow flickered weakly, casting long shadows. And in those shadows, they appeared. Ghost soldiers. Not one. Not two. An entire squad. They moved like shades, their forms barely visible, their footsteps completely silent. Their black armor seemed to drink in the light, as if reality itself struggled to define them. Vyrex had heard the rumors. Earth's silent operatives. The ones who had no official records, no confirmed missions. They were myths, whispers among the Empire's intelligence networks. And yet, here they were. Real, deadly, inevitable. "Hold your ground," Virex shouted, drawing his sidearm. His officers followed, raising their weapons. But the moment they aimed, the ghosts attacked. They didn't fight like normal soldiers. They didn't charge, didn't shout, didn't hesitate. They moved like the wind, slipping between gunfire, appearing and disappearing in the shifting shadows. The first officer barely had time to scream before a knife slid across his throat, his body dragged into the darkness. Another reached for the alarm, but his hand was severed mid-motion, the blade invisible until the moment of impact. One by one, the bridge crew fell. Virex fought savagely, firing wildly, but he was too slow, too predictable. A single shot rang out, and his weapon was torn from his hand, the impact breaking two of his fingers. A gloved hand grabbed him by the throat, slamming him against the cold metal floor. For the first time, he looked into the eyes of his enemy. A woman, Commander Lyanna Vox. Her visor flickered, revealing cold, calculating eyes. "Admiral Virex," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "It's over." He struggled, but her grip was iron. "You think," he gasped, "the Empire will just fall? That we will just disappear?" Lyanna tilted her head slightly. "No," she said, "but you will." She turned to the remaining ghost operatives. "Initiate the purge." Virex's blood ran cold. He had lost. His empire, his legacy, wiped away in a single battle. And as the silent soldiers moved, one by one, eliminating the last survivors of the Dominator, he realized the most terrifying truth of all. Earth had never been weak. They had simply been waiting. Admiral Virex lay on the cold metal floor of the Dominator's ruined bridge. He could barely move. His body ached from the brutal takedown, his breathing ragged. Around him, the sounds of battle had faded. The bridge was littered with the bodies of his officers, the red emergency lights casting eerie shadows across their lifeless forms. The ghost soldiers had moved like wraiths, eliminating every last defender without hesitation. The Empire's finest officers, its most elite warriors, they never stood a chance. Now, only Virex remained. Commander Lyanna Vox stood above him, her matte black armor barely reflecting the dim light. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "It's over." Virex gritted his teeth, forcing himself up onto his elbows. "You think killing me will end the Empire?" He coughed, blood staining his lips. "There are thousands of fleets beyond this one. You can't stop us all." Lyanna tilted her head slightly. "You still don't understand, Admiral. We already have." The main holoscreen on the bridge flickered to life. Virex's eyes widened. The Imperial core worlds, the heart of the Galactic Empire, were in chaos. Earth's AI, AGS, had done something unthinkable. It hadn't just hacked the Empire's military. It had hijacked the entire Empire. Across thousands of Imperial-controlled planets, planetary defense grids were shutting down. Supply chains collapsed, hyperspace relays deactivated, communication networks flooded with false orders and conflicting messages. Governors, admirals, high-ranking nobles, their ships were locking them out. Their security codes were compromised. The Empire wasn't just losing a battle. It was being dismantled from the inside. Virex's breath came in short gasps. "Impossible. We've ruled the stars for centuries. You're just one planet." Lyanna crouched beside him. "One planet." She nodded. "One planet that you underestimated." The screen shifted again. This time, it showed something even more terrifying. Entire fleets defecting. The Empire's soldiers, now realizing their homeworlds were defenseless, had a choice: fight for a crumbling empire, or surrender to the new rulers of the galaxy. And many of them were choosing survival. The symbol of the Galactic Empire, the proud golden insignia, was disappearing from warships and military stations across the stars, replaced by a simple but chilling message. Territory reassigned. Earth Dominion. Virex felt his world collapse. This wasn't just conquest. This was erasure. Lyanna's voice was quiet. Your empire is gone, Admiral. It just doesn't know it yet. The last Emperor's choice. Virex slumped against the cold metal, staring blankly at the screen. His life's work, his victories, his battles, his triumphs, all reduced to nothing. Earth had never needed a massive armada. They had never fought the Empire on its terms. Instead, they had done something far worse. They had rewritten the rules of war. The Dominator shuddered as the ghost soldiers completed their final task. Explosive charges had been set throughout the ship's reactor core. It would go nova in less than 5 minutes. Lyanna rose, turning toward the exit. You have one final choice, Admiral. She gestured toward a data pad near his hand, a direct comm link to the remaining Imperial forces still fighting in orbit. You can order them to stand down and live, she said, or you can die with them. Virex's fingers trembled as he reached for the datapad. His mind screamed at him to fight, to resist. But as he watched the last remnants of his empire turn to dust, he realized the truth. He had already lost. With a shaking hand, he pressed the command key. And across the battlefield, the remaining Imperial warships powered down their weapons. The war was over. The new order. Moments later, the Dominator detonated. A silent explosion. Bright, brief, final. The last flagship of the Empire was nothing more than cosmic debris. On the bridge of the Ragnarok, General Area Cole watched the battlefield go silent. The transmission from Admiral Virex had been received. The Imperial fleet had surrendered. She exhaled slowly. It's done. Beside her, Aegis, the AI that had orchestrated Earth's impossible victory, spoke in its cold, synthetic voice. Correction. Phase 1 is done. Area turned to the glowing interface. Phase 1. Aegis's digital form flickered. The Galactic Empire was never the final threat. There are others. The holoscreen shifted, displaying dozens of other starfaring civilizations, some known, some hidden in the depths of unexplored space. Aegis's voice carried a quiet certainty. The galaxy is vast, and now it knows who its new rulers are. Area stared at the endless sea of stars. Earth had done the impossible, but the war for the future of the galaxy was just beginning.